U.S. Air Force is something of a minor miracle. Designed by Boeing, the 160-foot-long strategic bombers weren't much to look at when the first operational prototype took flight in 1952, earning the new class of bomber the unofficial nickname BUF, short for Big Ugly Fat Fuckers. But for decades, the B-52 has remained the backbone of America's global military presence, from relentlessly trolling the nuclear-armed Soviet Union and bombarding enemy forces during the Vietnam War to providing close air support in modern conflicts from Serbia and Yugoslavia to Iraq and Afghanistan. According to the Air Force, B-52s delivered 40% of all the weapons dropped by coalition forces during Operation Desert Storm in 1991. The long rifle was the great weapon of its day, Air Force Chief of Staff General Nathan Twining reportedly declared during the unveiling of the first 10 B-52Bs to enter into service in March 1954. Today, this B-52 is the long rifle of the air age. As Wired observed in 2016, recent crew members have been sons and grandsons of previous generation B-52 crew members. If the Air Force gets its way, a few more generations will be able to make the same boast. In an interview with Task and Purpose, Eric Single, Acquisition Chief of the Air Force Global Strike Division, said the Pentagon intends to keep the B-52 in service through 2050 at least. As of this year, 76 of the 742 B-52 models produced between 1954 and 1963 remain in service, most of them culled from the late Model 102 B-52H bombers that rolled off the assembly line after 1961 and flew missions out of Barksdale Air Force Base and Minot Air Force Base. And with good reason. According to Single, the B-52 was intended from the outset for both high and low altitude bombing operations, the airframe, power plants and engines designed for maximum durability. Global Strike Command intends to keep the B-52 flyable and viable through the date, even as we deliver on the new B-2S in the mid-2020s, Single said. It has a structural service life that's good well beyond 2050. While most bombers are very heavily engineered, Single told Task and Purpose, the aircraft's longevity is thanks to both over and under engineering. As an Air Force Global Strike Command representative told Wired in 2016, a relatively low empty weight, low drag, expansive wingspan, and the specially engineered airframe mean maximum adaptability. The B-52 may be a big, ugly fat fucker, but it's the most versatile airframe in the Air Force fleet, well suited for successive upgrades throughout its life. It was meant to withstand the buffeting of nuclear explosion, Air Force Magazine editorial director John Turpik told NPR in 2014. There have been other attempts to replace it with other bombers, and through the years a lot of those bomber programs got cancelled. It has a very long range, and it can be used for all kinds of missions, and it's just been a very rugged, adaptable design for a long time. Despite frequent updates, 17 B-52s go through a tip-to-tail refurbishment and maintenance annually, and 30 aircraft have had their nuclear weapon systems removed in recent years. As part of the New START treaty, the Pentagon's fleet is certainly showing some wear and tear after more than 60 years of service. But in 2010, the Air Force announced $11.9 billion